All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the End of the World with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And we are back from the afterlife. At long last, we've sojourned through many exotic realms, gone through many intolerable hypothetical scenarios.
Yeah, we'll take a break from those, but I've got a few in the locker.
Oh, good. You've been in the woodshed with the hypotheticals, so to
I've been in the lab.
In the lab.
Love that. I've been in the lab
with Dr. Frankenstein.
I follow a lot of people who, as you can imagine with my algorithm, like who post as though they're like professional-ish sports bettors. And one of my favorite things is they'll post like a parlay. Yeah. Like encouraging people to bet it, like this is a really good play. Yeah. You know? And then it's always something like been in the lab, cooked this up. And then it's just like to hit a home run, Aaron Judge, and to hit a home run, Shohei Ohtani.
Wow.
Like, oh, okay. The numbers suggest Judge and Ohtani tonight. Interesting.
Your PhD in baseball science, clearly hard earned.
That's right.
Well, we're going to go over some news today. And as we've been doing Afterlife stuff for the last 3 weeks, so there's a few things from recent.
Just a couple. Yeah, just a couple.
From the recent past we thought we should make note of. And, since we're just talking about the lab and sports betting, a sort of unifying theme of this episode is conspiracism, which seems to have reached a new peak, a new frothing
or nadir. I mean,
a new frothing ubiquity where it's just everywhere you look, you find conspiracism being iterated in one form.
In fact, something is wrong if it's being taken at face value.
Right. If the explanation for something is clear and transparent, there is no bigger sign that a conspiracy is afoot. Yeah. So our beloved Celtics perished. Well, they didn't literally perish, but they were knocked out ignominiously in Game 7 at home. And beloved star.
Just to give some credence to the potential for conspiracy here, Celtics have never given up a 3-1 lead.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
32-0 going into this. Philly had never won a series while trailing 3-1, 0-18. So one has to assume, just by the weight of the math there, Stu, that any deviation from that would have to be some sort of grand conspiracy that the Celtics' second best player should probably take a long time on a strange Twitch stream complaining about.
That's right. So Jalen took to Twitch, I also heard reports that it was actually on Kick, the more alt.
I don't know the difference, but
well, they're very similar. Kick is the totally unhinged one, though.
Where's Clav?
Probably Kick, but I don't know. I've kind of lost track.
Hassan is Twitch.
Although he often gets suspended for saying things like,
we shouldn't kill children.
Like Israel isn't that great. It's anyway. So Jalen has done this stream, which I haven't watched because I have better.
You see any of it?
I saw some. I mean, some of it where he's complaining about.
I can explain it. I'll explain it a bit better because I think I probably watched a little bit more.
I'm sure you did.
But so it turns out, and I had loosely been vaguely aware, but despite my love for Jaylen Brown as a player, and I certainly, I mean, he's eccentric and what have you as a person, but he seems pretty intelligent guy,
Sure.
Definitely has had some high highs with the Celtics, and I'm definitely in the camp that I hope he stays.
Absolutely.
But it's this morphing of online and reality, right? Which struck me as a little strange when I would see it every now and throughout the season, especially with a guy like Jalen, because although it does make sense because he does seem to have a bit of like terminally online brain.
Well, right? Also he's been Kyrie poisoned. I think we can trace this back to the time when Kyrie was on Boston.
But it's this weird thing where he definitely is in that lineage of NBA athlete that appears I think fairly to be considered like a workaholic, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the guy has improved every year, sort of like even in his later prime, he seems to get legitimately better all the time. Reports of his work ethic obviously are legendary in Boston. His training regimen, I think he once famously did a bunch of underwater training. Remember those photos?
Right, where he learned to hold his breath for 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, so he's got that kind of like, not that he's as an accomplished a player, but kind of like is one of these, it's almost a throwback now, sort of like a hyper competitive, hyper focused athlete who has made the most of his considerable athletic talents. But at the same time, he does Twitch, it seems like once a week, right? And at first, it's kind of like granted, everyone has a bit of time, but like, it's just a little bit off-putting, just in general, to just. But again, this isn't about silencing him or anything, of course. But this particular one, he even starts like clipping plays to like explain what he's thinking. And again, there's some value in that. It's kind of cool to have a player be like, "This is what I was thinking on this play, and this is why it either worked or it didn't work."
Yeah.
But obviously, with the stakes, there were a couple things that came out of it. One being sort of that there was an agenda against him, right?
And the Celtics.
Yeah. So
the NBA famously doesn't like Boston to win. Right?
Yeah, they hate to see Boston and New York play in the second round. How much they despise such a thing. They'd rather make sure that Embiid, who hasn't gotten through a whole series in what feels like a decade, is maybe around for the second round. But yeah, so that obviously is ridiculous when people think that there's some sort of anti-Boston bias in the media there. But also quickly sort of on the heels of this idea that it was, is also that he accused Joel Embiid of flopping.
Which, fair enough. I mean,
which is true. He is one of the worst of it.
And he's a dirty player. He always is pushing people after the whistle.
The combination flopper, heavy, every play complainer, that's the worst to me.
Yep.
Right. But like he started saying essentially that he would show plays where Paul George did something similar to him. But
this is what I saw. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, first of all, this is what happens in Check's notes. Every single basketball game in the history of the world. Like, it's not.
They missed that one, but they got that one, right? I mean,
right. And again, we won't go into all the minutia of the other stuff about how he said it was his favorite basketball season ever. And there's a lot of conspiracists out there saying that that's coded language for he doesn't want to play with Tatum anymore.
Right.
We'll leave that conspiracy aside and just say like it says something that a team that goes 13 for 49 from 3. So shooting a lean
27%, right?
Right. Whereas Maxey and George for the series I heard today went 45 for 95 from 3. That instead of just like
they shot better, they played better,
It's like, oh, they scored more of the more valuable baskets than in with more efficiency than we did. No, there must be some grand conspiracy against Jaylen Brown. And I know that like again, he goes a little deep into his conspiracy, right? Because he's not Nike. This is part of the whole
yeah, of course.
But it's this really it's this interesting thing as you're watching it as a Celtics fan, and obviously like I love Jaylen Brown, and then he's talking about Joel Embiid. I'm like, oh, finally someone really just came out and said it, and then it's like the fix is in against me. I would have won if the NBA didn't want me out of here.
It's like, bro, what are you talking about? Maybe you would have won if your bench players hadn't gone a combined like 4 for 30 shooting in the seventh game.
How much is the conspiracy when like you only have 3 fouls, you scored 33 points and were minus 16, which is easy to do. So like put up that kind of scoring effort in a meaningful game and be vastly outscored. But I think the real conspiracy, the funniest idea that you get from a lot of the Boston fans is that somehow, like you said, like that the NBA wouldn't want the like Tatum comeback story to continue.
Yeah,
where he got injured. Man, they would really hate to be able to tell that story for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, there's no interest. And also, there's other sports conspiracy. My favorite that you introduced me to is the magnet.
Oh yeah, the magnet was a fun one. Came out when in the next game. It was at the very next game or the next day, I think.
It was the day before.
Day before, right? It was Friday, right? And RJ Barrett like had this pretty horrific shot, but it just hit the clean back of the rim and like popped right up and someone measured it when explaining how they know the NBA is rigged. They actually like froze it that it was like 2 meters above the rim.
Right, and it was like 1.5 seconds from hitting the rim to it going in. It was like...
That's right. And it like went back down perfectly and managed to go right down beneath the basket.
Which does, from time to time, happen.
That absolutely happens. You know, and like I'm sure that much of the content is sort of a parody, but there are people out there who are actually like the levels of which people have gone with the NBA is rigged is miles ahead of other sports.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Is that... I mean, every single game, someone is claiming that the entire league structure is rigged.
Whereas, like in football, it would be a lot easier to rig things. You know,
that's right. And
just like, like that's pass interference, just on a key player,
and arguably like a lot more important because there are so few games.
There's only one game. Yeah,
like if you lose Mahomes, you know, in the first round of the playoffs, you know, you don't get to watch him play 7 times in the playoffs while he loses. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the least offensive.
So they were claiming that there was a magnet in the ball that was pulling.
I think, yeah.
Because and they also claim that because Kawhi Leonard famously in 2019 hit a similar game winner that popped up and went in Game 7 against Philly, and same arena, the Scotiabank Center or whatever it's called.
Yep. That's enough evidence for me. You know what they say, Stu? Fool me once. Right?
So this is indicative, I think, of a broader trend. And you know what really brings out conspiracism? An assassination attempt, right? I mean, this is kind of the bread and butter of conspiracies, right? I mean, the first American president to be assassinated, Abraham Lincoln, was the literal victim of a conspiracy, right? John Wilkes Booth and 7 other people conspired to kill him and the vice president and Seward. And, you know, Booth was the only one who pulled this part off. But so it's like, it's a proud tradition that whenever anyone attempts to kill the president, the immediate assumption is there are darker forces. There are shadowy forces.
Here's a question for you. You might not know the answer to that. I certainly don't. So I may as well ask you.
Sure.
In the time of Lincoln.
Yes.
After the assassination, were there grander conspiracies?
Oh, absolutely. That it was ordered by Jefferson. That it was Jefferson.
Even though there was a real conspiratorial element.
Yeah, I mean, it's never enough, Michael. Right? No, it was like Jefferson Davis ordered this. This is revenge. You know, stuff like that. Yep. Which there's not any tangible proof that that's the case. But you know, I mean, I don't think Jefferson.
I mean, the one that it didn't. There weren't really any sort of conspiracies around like the JFK, right? So at least with that,
yeah, there were no conspiracies.
The official story held, right? I think.
Well, you know, it's my thesis that the simmering, the 30 now 60 years of conspiracism simmering around JFK is the root of all of this on a certain level.
Why do you think that? Above every other sort of conspiracy that came along.
I just think it's the grandmother. It's the grandfather of them all. I mean, they suppressed a lot of stuff in the immediate aftermath, right? I mean, the Zapruder.
And I think the Zapruder film, like when it does come out, that's a huge help for conspiracy.
Absolutely, because it doesn't come out for 12 years, I don't think. I think Geraldo shows it for the first time on TV in 1975. My date might
Geraldo got it first.
Yeah, because of this guy who was helping on the House Assassinations Review or the Church Committee or one of the, he made a copy of it and leaked it to Geraldo. I think his name is Grodin. It's been a while since I've reviewed this material. But in any case, the suppression of that, and then Dan Rather famously, immediately after seeing the Zapruder film, described it in a way that is not accurate. So it's like you have this, you know, he's young newsman at the time, would go on to be very central, perhaps rewarded for his help with the right. And then plus you of course have Lee Harvey Oswald denying I'm a patsy, you know, denying any, and then he gets killed by a third party, another rogue actor. You can understand why there would be.
Yeah, you can ask some questions.
Absolutely. And then a real industry pops up around it 5 years afterwards. 4 to 5 years after. It's like 67 is when the ball really gets rolling. I
think it's fair to say, just to jump in, that like while this is interesting to build sort of the foundation of everything that comes after it, we will also at some point be doing a much deeper dive, because you do have a sort of contrarian anti-conspiracist view of the matter. So one day we will get into all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that I'm not saying the Warren Commission is perfect. I don't think that at all. But I do think that Oswald acted alone. Yeah.
Interesting.
But anyway.
I just assume it was David, Stern.
David Stern, a young Adam Silver, not even born yet. Fully.
Yeah.
He had a magnet installed in JFK's head.
This was really just training to make sure that teams like the Boston Celtics in 2020 didn't make the second round.
Remind me where JFK is from again?
Exactly.
Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah. So with that in the background, we've seen this to some extent with the Butler aftermath of the attempted assassination of Trump, right? A little bit less with the Ryan Routh, the guy who hit on the golf course with a gun. And then there was actually a third attempted assassination of Trump that an armed guy like tried to get into Mar-a-Lago and was shot and killed on the outskirts. I guess maybe earlier this year. That one wasn't really, I don't even think Trump was actually at Mar-a-Lago, but still, his intentions are clear. So we have this guy, Cole Allen, who at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, as I'm sure everyone knows by now, we're a little late to this, runs through the security checkpoint, apparently with his gun blazing. It's unclear. There's still debate as to whether or not he actually fired. The New York Times is saying he did, and there's no evidence that the Secret Service agent who was shot was a victim of friendly fire. I've seen other reports saying the other thing. Doesn't matter.
Is it true that they haven't released the findings of all the bullets yet, or is that not true?
I don't know. I'm sure all of that will come out at trial. There's no way it won't.
But he had booked himself into the hotel. Is that right?
Yeah, but just a couple weeks ago. There was a story that he'd done it months ago, but that's not true.
Yeah, because that was one of the conspiracy hooks, was that
he booked this 6 months ago. Yeah,
that Trump was there going to attend. Do we know when Trump announced he was going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
I think he had alluded to the fact that he would be going prior to Cole Allen booking.
But that did help the conspiracy get cooking, because he's never been there before, right?
That's right. In all of his infinite years as president, the only time he famously attended was 2011 when Obama made the jokes at his expense. So yeah. Now the guy was captured immediately. He was a floor up and hundreds of meters away from Trump when he was captured. He didn't kill anyone, thank goodness. And the whole plan seems to have been completely delusional. Did you read his letter that he wrote?
Just some screenshots of it. Yeah,
I read the whole thing. It's Brace from TrueAnon had a good analysis of this last week, where it's Brace was going through historical assassination attempts, rating them on a scale of and this one got a 0, possibly negative, this. And it really, he has a kind of, it's somewhat grandiose, but it's grandiose in this kind of millennial, winky way. He's hey guys, I'm really sorry, but if you're reading this, something might have just happened.
Right. And then the idea was just as many targets as he could get.
Well, no, he went through all the people he wouldn't kill in order. He was he had to rules of engagement,
people, but not cash as well for some
reason.
And
it's not entirely clear why Patel was off the board for him. Maybe he's out of the line of succession. Others have suggested he's the only person of color. Others have suggested maybe he thinks
he might have been fired by then.
Well, I think he thinks that Cash is still working on the Epstein files, because the Epstein files seem to have been a primary motivator for this guy in a way that's quite different. I mean, the difference here is I mean, Ryan Routh seems to have wanted to do it because of Ukraine. Like he was he'd been in Ukraine. He tried to raise money. He tried to bring mercenaries to Ukraine. He's a big Ukraine guy. Thought Trump was
the Butler shooting motive.
Unclear. Like just no footprint for that guy. He left nothing. Like he had nothing online. We know very.
But he was in a BlackRock commercial or something. Is that
but that was coincidental.
Oh, sure, Stu.
Well, the BlackRock had done a program at his school, and he was one of the kids filmed in it. But that was several years ago. But never mind. We don't know anything about him. He seems to have voted for Republicans and also donated to Democrats. He's an enigma. So, all right.
First, we want to just say, because you did bring this up, and I do think this is important.
Sure.
Quickly after that, one of the things that came out was that he had an IDF sweater on. That's right.
There was a photo on his since deleted Facebook of him wearing an IDF sweatshirt. Yeah. A sweatshirt emblazoned with the IDF logo.
Yes. Then you can imagine. Why don't you tell them what you mentioned to me, which I think does make a lot of sense, because people did start, as you can imagine, saying, "Well, I guess he worked for Israel.
He was an agent of Mossad." And I texted you the day of. People are connecting this to Israel. Because as we know, this is how Mossad works. They're like, okay, let's find the most incompetent assassin possible who will utterly fail in every sense of the word in his attempt.
Let's make sure he has to travel clear across the country.
He goes all the way across the country, has a long blue sky posting record. And before we get the ball rolling on this, you know what we need to do first, though? Get the guy some branded gear.
Let's get some swag.
This is definitely how Israel operates, right?
But this ties into what we're going to get into in a second here, because we do really get this amazing combination of insanities and the next conspiracy theory. But I do just want to say, like, one of the elements that you see in conspiracism that kind of covers the bases of a conspiracist these days is that something might be hidden that you then have to find out. But just as likely, they actually sort of want you to know that they're in control. If something like the IDF.
Well, this is central to QAnon, right? QAnon's belief was that that they're compelled by their satanic masters to show you their crimes.
Well, that's the Nick Mullen.
It's the Nick Mullen thing, right? And now the clues. One of the best bits ever, I must say. I think interestingly, tying everything into Israel is very of the moment. I mean, JFK, the leading JFK conspiracy right now is that Israel killed him because he was going to pull back support for the 1960s Israeli state or whatever because of that post-Suez crisis or what have you.
Which is a relatively recent conspiracy.
Yeah, right? I mean, I've been researching this stuff intensely for over 30 years. And I would say up until the last year and a half, I had never heard the Israel did it theory. And yet now it's the theory that has the most juice.
It would be an interesting piece to work at, maybe, of like the way that the changing of the JFK conspiracy theory reflects the current state of American politics, right?
100%. I think
it's been Cuba, it's been Russia, it's been the CIA,
it's been the mafia.
That's right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is true of all conspiracism, that in some way it always reflects, much as people say like sci-fi novels reflect the time in which they were written. Their vision of the future actually tells us more about the historical moment that they emerge from. Right. I think conspiracism is kind of like sci-fi in this respect, right? I mean, it's speculative. We're entering into this.
And speaking of
sci-fi, right?
The combination of these various factors. Why don't you explain to the listeners here the one that we stumbled upon that, interestingly enough, I don't know if you had seen when I had mentioned this to you.
No, I think I saw the Henry Martinez thing.
Because I know, we obviously do a podcast about this. We're looking at a lot of this wackadoodle stuff. We obviously go off and research it. So one of the unfortunate elements to this is the relative distortions of our algorithms. but I actually talked about this. I think you were at the show, right? I talked about this on stage during a set.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments you realize like we're the ones with the algorithm.
Like, no one else at the show knew what we haven't
seen this, but like, and my algorithm, I think was even like mine was like, I was getting this conspiracy theory, the Henry Martinez theory on my phone, like every other tweet for like an hour, you know. Why don't you just lay the groundwork? Cause it is a really beautiful combination of a lot of different elements.
And this was pushed by one of the Krasenstein brothers, the famous
among others.
Those are the biggest voices that I saw, like amplifying this credulously. So people found the shooter's name, Cole Allen, on a mysterious Twitter page posted in December 2023 from a user called Henry Martinez, who posted nothing else. This is the one tweet.
Absolutely nothing else.
There's the one tweet on this account. People further claim that the abstract art, which is this sort of glitchy, digital artwork, that is his Twitter header art, perfectly aligns. If you superimpose the image of Trump holding up his fist after the Butler assassination, another event that occurred after this Twitter account was posted, it perfectly aligns with this digital header, almost as if
almost like a magic eye.
Yeah, just a little bit like a magic eye.
So what ends up happening is that this obviously takes off in a certain sphere of the internet.
Oh yeah,
who are looking for these exact types of things, and eventually a lot of the posts that I would get would actually. Did you get this where it would do the thing where it would actually like fade in and out?
Oh yeah.
And so that like I was like, oh.
Yeah, but it's pareidolia, you know. It's like our mind wants to see the blurry, twisted lines as representing this image because that suggestion's being forced on us.
Yes, but this is also another one that has been coming up, sort of like on a dual track with UFO, scientists, researchers, and time travel. That of course, like one of the theories that is out there is that a lot of the people doing all of this incredible harm or with all this control and all these inexplicable things are actually themselves time travelers who obviously are dealing with some sort of potentially calamity in the future that they're trying to either rectify or contain or whatever, and taking necessary steps steps by like coming back in time and being like, I will post the name of the future Trump failed assassin 2 years or so before. And this is one of the things I was saying, right, on stage. It's just like, if we go so far as to imagine there is a time traveler going by the name Henry Martinez, like to use this unbelievable power to just throw out the name Cole Allen and bounce after like getting your Twitter header to line up with the Trump shooting.
Right. This will stop it. Do you ever see that Stephen King 1963 adaptation? What is it? It's 11/22/63. It's about the TV version. James Frank. It's a novel by Stephen King. Another King novel that I couldn't finish because the writing was such trash. But the show was pretty entertaining. This guy discovers a portal that takes him back to, I forget what, July 1962. Okay, and he immediately is like, he's like, oh my God, I have a year. I could stop the assassination. And what he finds happens is, he goes through, he tries to find Oswald. He tries to do this. He tries to warn, he takes all these different, and then when he fails, there's a way for him to go back and like start it over again.
Kind of like he's like a video game. Like you can go back to the first level.
Groundhog Day, something like that. Yeah. And what he starts to discover is that like time is like, no, the assassination happened. Like fate kind of starts like intervening in his efforts to stop.
It's funny because it really does show the lack of imagination and the desperation of the modern day conspiracists. Because like, can you imagine even King in all his mediocrity, like being like, okay, first what he'll do is he'll hop online and he'll just write Cole Allen. Okay.
That's right. I mean, there's nothing to this stuff, but what if there is something to it? Because this is where we tie it into another raging conspiracy bonfire.
This one I like.
Which is the story of, well, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you.
Or you've just been sent to tell me that bad news, put me off the scent.
Well, I've just come from the future to tell you. So there's this conspiracy about the so-called missing scientists, many of whom are alleged to have worked on high-level government programs, to have worked on physics. A lot of them are physical scientists. And
the implication basically being that they are working to discover the truth about the universe, right?
Yeah, and also possibly the truth about things like time travel or aliens, right? Yeah. So there are various lists. You can find conspiracy lists that'll have, some of them have 30 names, some of them have 10, some of them. This all really kicked off in earnest in February of this year. And the central figure seems to be this guy, William McCasland, who is a former high-level scientist and naval admiral who was involved in various secretive programs, and
more importantly,
in contact with Tom DeLonge of Blink-182. This came out in... there's an excellent article by Mike Rothschild that I'm linking to in the show notes. And Mike also appeared on a recent QAA app talking about all of this. I'll put a link to that episode as well. Both are really, really well done and worth checking out. So basically, that came out because of WikiLeaks, when all of John Podesta's emails got leaked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. And in one of them, Tom DeLonge was like, Podesta, I've been talking with McCasland. He's on board. He knows deep stuff. He knows about the bodies from Area 51, from the Roswell crash. Like, he's just like, and the thought is, after McCasland disappeared, his wife was like, I think he goes by Neil. Neil was in touch with Tom DeLonge for a time. After the leaks, contact with Tom lessened. I think the implication being that once he saw the way DeLonge was like representing their relationship to other bigwigs, he was kind of like, I'm going to take a step back from all of this.
So what happened at Aslan?
So he disappeared. He lived in New Mexico. He's been retired for 13 years, I think. And he's 68 years old. He has been dealing with some possible dementia-related psychological / physical health issues. Issues associated with aging, right? His wife hasn't been that specific, but the implication is What's that?
Nor does she need to be, right?
No, absolutely not. And like, maybe he got some bad news that's like, things aren't going to get much better. This is the start of the downward spiral or whatever. So apparently on February 26th, she went out to a doctor's appointment at 11:15. She returned at noon. He was there when she left, to find him gone. He left behind his Fitbit, his phone, his...
this is a key part to the story, right? Is that he didn't want to be tracked.
He left all of the digital items that could potentially be tracked behind, and
someone didn't want to be tracked.
Right. Well, he took his gun and hiking boots, and I think his wallet also. And he hasn't been seen since. His wife calls 911 a few hours later saying, my husband's missing. She explains to the operator that he has this bad, depressing health news on his mind and has
information about the secrets of the universe.
He's like, I can't hold it in anymore. All the secret knowledge of the aliens.
Give me my hiking boots and my gun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, he hasn't been found since then. And this is like the highest ranking actual legitimate scientist to disappear. A lot of the other people on the list
it's very loose as well.
Well,
right?
they're
really tied to each other. And
they have no connection to each other. They maybe once worked at the same place, but like years apart. Some of them are obviously cranks, like people who are not serious at all.
Okay.
Like working on like anti-gravity tech, but like doing so in their garage. And as I said, there's like no thread. It's not like these are all people who are on Project Monarch or whatever, whatever secretive thing. It looks from the outside like, in all likelihood, McCaslin couldn't deal with his diagnoses or what have you, and decided he wanted to disappear, peacefully.
Right. The most likely thing is it's like a pretty sad story.
Like he took his own life, most likely, right? I mean, that seems to be the reading, and it is quite sad. And he probably did it discreetly. Maybe he didn't want his wife to have to find his remains or what have you. I mean, not good, not uplifting stuff. A lot of the other people, and I didn't make an exhaustive list of all of them, but are also people who struggle with mental illness and have other logical explanations for.
And the one note that I do want to just make sure we get across on that you have here on McCaslin too is that he was retired for over a decade.
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't like going in and
like Iran is like, we will
a genius scientist admiral like out of the Pentagon. Like none of that happened, but it's sort of how it's all
spun that way.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess one thing I'm wondering about, like, what you think about this is that, like, maybe it's just a little too generalized, but sometimes when I see this level of conspiracy,
sure,
right, which is even like far beyond, like, Israel killed Kennedy or Israel killed Charlie Kirk or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, is obviously like its own conspiracy, but it's just like a direct through line. This thing just takes on all, like, it's a hodgepodge, and tries to tell some much wilder story. Is it like institutions?
It's an interesting question. I've long thought about this, and I've long assumed that was the case. But I think what's interesting is a lot of these conspiracy people are also very religious, and the two things are kind of intertwined in a weird way.
Interesting.
That in other words, a belief in conspiracism is not entirely distinct from a belief in powerful God who intervenes.
Yeah,
in the world.
I suppose it's the same with like the simulation people, right? That's actually not that distinct from God either. Right. If you believe in that we are in a computer or whatever. Right.
No, absolutely. And so it's not as simple as one is replacing the other. I think they're entangled in interesting ways, because I think people are finding traditional ideas of like the miraculous less hard, less easy. We don't have as many stories about Saint Mary appearing in a loaf of bread or whatever, right? Like that seems to have been, or like crying statues, or like the Padre Pio thing. Like in the 20th century, even the earlier 20th century, there were these like miraculous events, and that what has happened in their place to some extent is these supernatural and or miraculous, but like
or extraterrestrial.
Right. Aliens have kind of, we've talked about this a little bit with Heaven's Gate. And I even pointed out in there's like an element of this in Waco, like this belief that like God and the aliens are one. I mean, Scientology is a manifestation of this at its core. Right. So it's not as simple as a decline of one, a rise in the other. It's a morphing of belief to incorporate new, there's a whole blog and podcast about this called Conspirituality, which talks about the linkage between religious belief and conspiracist thinking. A good, really well-researched, smart show. And, QAA, formerly QAnon Anonymous, gets into a lot of this stuff too. So these are both really good resources. And I think you can see that in the scientist thing. Also, one thing I want to say before we end on the scientists is just this is an old trope. Mike Rothschild points this out in his piece on Talking Points memo, but like this isn't the example he used, but there's often this like he points to the Curse of King Tut story, where like after they opened Tutankhamun's tomb in 1920 or whenever that was, in the next 5 years, like 10 people involved mysteriously died or whatever, and the idea is like they've unleashed some ancient curse, but it's also like there were like 600 people involved in the dig, and like 10 of them dying in a 5-year span is not that crazy, especially in the 1920s, right? A lot of people died of infections and other, it was before penicillin, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the other example that I always point to is JFK. There's this whole thing about all the witnesses were silenced. They all died within 5 years.
The mathematical unlikelihood of them dying within a short period of time, right?
Right, but it's like, actuarially speaking, like it's not unlikely at all. These are all people who like smoked, ate horribly, like were veterans of the war, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, and also all these people that allegedly died, including Jack Ruby, right, who dies just 5 years, not even 5 years after the assassination. They all die of like cancer, and so then the theory is like, oh, the U.S. government, but it's also like they die of cancer after they've given like 25 interviews, right? It's like there's this one guy who was in a guard tower near the assassination site, and people are always like, yeah, maybe he saw something, and I'm like, yeah, but I've seen like 6 interviews with that guy who died in 1966. Like, it's not like he didn't get his story out there before he. So, but there always has to be this like overarching belief in like there's some coherent pattern that points us back to the source of the malignity that is to blame for this evil event, when in point of fact, like the thing in and of itself, like as we've talked about, like even if we found out exactly what happened with JFK and whether it was Oswald or CIA or whoever, like what is that going to change in the world right now?
Right.
Oh, people are going to like have less faith in the government?
Yeah. Perfect.
Like how is that possible? Right? Like, oh my God, we're going to learn that the U.S. government is evil? And has done evil things? No way. Like there's no turning back. Mm-hmm. This is the first news I'm hearing about this. Like, I don't know. But
speaking of
this will transition us to our last topic, which Michael's done a bit more reading on than I have, which is this latest Supreme Court decision about a case in Louisiana that's just gutted the Voting Rights Act.
It seems as such, at least according to Kagan, particularly in dissent, right?
This is the analysis I've seen from people I trust as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's seems pretty much right. But essentially, what is going on is a district is being deemed unconstitutional, right? And the creation of some of these districts are they're built so that there's representation
for
in the case
minority populations. Yeah.
Right. And again, I mean, we can get into the ridiculousness of the ruling, which, one of the things I've heard people who support the ruling saying, like, you look at it doesn't make any sense. Like it's being, gerrymandered to do X and Y. Well, okay. But I mean, at the same time, we're also talking about communities who have themselves had their ability to exist in certain places manipulated for the entire duration.
Like redlining. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, how can you know what I mean? Like it's
created the map that makes
That's exactly right. I mean, it's obvious. It's transparent. You get some classic Republican thinking quotes like this one from Governor Jeff Landry, who gets to play, they love whenever they are playing the race card. That's when you really got to get your tail up, right? Like, oh my God. The best way to end race-based discrimination is to stop making decisions based on race. And it's just like, oh, I'm sorry. Is that what you're not doing right now? Is that right?
Yeah, like, it's like,
and
buddy.
Again, that we are now hearing, as you can imagine, because the redrawing of the map people actually talked about right before, and it has been sort of percolating. We had the moment, was it the Texas folks left the state to not allow it? There was this whole thing of like, we want to make 5. Trump started saying like, go get me 5 more seats or whatever. And then Newsom tried to, glom on to this, like, well, then we're getting more states in California. So, you do see this kind of thinking from the Democrats that might lead to just everyone having to redraw and find new ways to distort maps, Not to imply that the original Louisiana decision is correct or as the result of a distortion, but you see what I'm saying, right? That,
yeah, and I think the Democrats have indeed responded and redrawn their own maps rather severely in Virginia and California and a few other places.
Places, but it is sort of like, I think, really important to know that this remains indicative of one of the great problems that you and I have been talking about since 2016, right? Which is that when you have moments like Trump Clinton and they're asking who would accept the results of the election, right? That, of course, it's Clinton talking about how great American democracy is, and Trump being like, well, I mean, we'll see what the results are. I'm not just going to say that if they're fixed, I'll say they're fixed. And this is the sort of battleground on which the dying corpse of American democracy rests, is that you have people like DeSantis who just immediately are like, okay, well, we'll figure out a way to do this ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And yes, we have heard people like AOC, and we have seen some efforts by Democrats, but does anybody have any real confidence that it will come out at best even as a wash? Of course not, right? And I did want to say, as an example of this, we have Hakeem Jeffries, truly one of the most feckless politicians I've ever seen in my entire life. You like
no,
Jeffries?
I'm kidding. Come on.
Because they still insist on claiming a sort of higher ground no matter what, right? Even when a power grab is so plain that, just to follow up with Landry in Louisiana, they then declared this state of emergency to stop the primaries because they're like, oh, look, we have an illegal map. Time to figure out, how to make it fair and, not racist still. So, like Hakeem Jeffries says in response, while Democrats have given voters the choice whether or not to respond to Donald Trump's mid-decade gerrymandering scheme at the ballot box, thanks, buddy, Republicans are drawing maps behind closed doors in the dead of night. Yes. Correct. Jeffries said in a statement earlier this week. And then he says, the DeSantis dummy mander will not stand.
Yeah. Ugh.
And you're just like, this, how are they still saying these
like dangerous Donald ass phrase?
Yes, like this again, like the sort of blue sky of it all, right? But like this is like it's like a relic of they sound like a relic of a former era.
I agree.
Like, they don't understand that the language has shifted, or like that Trump has got a monopoly on the stupid old man nickname thing. It just feels lame and feels like you are saying that you have less power than maybe you even have. If you're going to go around being like, we've got to make sure that people remember the word dummy mander, DeSantis dummy mander, get that out there. Like
dangerous Donald.
Like, how can you have any faith that these people have any idea?
It's all Clinton. It's very Clinton coded to me.
That's right. But again, like it's Clinton coded in an
effort that lost. In a losing effort, right? I always think of that ridiculous video they did where they're parodying the Sopranos ending to announce Hillary's like campaign song. I think this was 2008. We may have talked about this before. Something about that was like, okay, kind of a cute idea, but just like the woodenness of Bill and Hillary in this diner and like, I don't know, just
this is the same thing that like we don't have time to talk about it today, but we also have hearings just recently. I forget who it was. It might have been the Connecticut guy. Is it Chris Coons? Is that right?
He's from Delaware.
Okay, so he's like interviewing or he's questioning people, and he simply is just asking people across the board: is Donald Trump eligible to run? Donald Trump eligible? And they just won't answer. Yeah, and it's like, guys, like, is your response to this to go with like the DeSantis dummy mander? Yeah. Like, like there's something very frightening about that. At least like when AOC talked about it, it felt a little more forceful and like actually a call to action. Whereas once again, the leadership is like, what if we try to embarrass them and try to make them look silly? That should work this time. Yeah, it's really it's grim. One thing I will say that gives me a little bit of hope is a lot of these gerrymanders
are based on the map of 2024. And they're based around the assumption that Trump's gains in all those groups will maintain, like particularly with Latinos, and like the Texas one may really backfire because a lot of the areas they've redrawn may actually now be toss-ups where before they were like more safely Republican. So
I think that's right.
There is like an aspect of hubris on the part of the Republicans.
Absolutely. And also just like the winds of the election currently obviously are well against them. If you look at any speculation. But to me, I'm talking more like.
No, I agree. Of course, the broader point.
And what else is coming? And if you are still like, the DeSantis dummy mander shall not stand.
Right. When Trump seizes power and it's like, actually, I am just running again.
Right. When Trump, like, you know, Trump's governors are out there like just stopping primaries.
Yeah. Or when Trump is like, the Supreme Court just like finds the constitutional amendment unconstitutional. like, wait, no, that's not how it Yeah.
All right.
So that's good for today. We've got some more news to catch up on, but you know, when is that never not the case?
Exactly.
But next week, as a follow-up to our trip to the afterlife, we thought we'd revisit a show we covered pretty early on in the show. We did the first season. And it's time to revisit it and cover season 2. That's right. It's The Leftovers. Like one of the best shows ever made, in my opinion. Just
absolutely
inescapably brilliant. A little bit undervalued, I would say. A little bit over.
The people that love it,
the people that know, but like
people that know. That's right.
Yeah, it's from Damon Lindelof, the creator of Lost. I love Lost, but I would say
like I don't. Maybe we talked about this in the first one, but like. The first time we talked about the show, it is a real grind to watch it in the way that we have to get ready for a podcast. Like
it's heavy. It's a heavy show.
You had to be watching this once a week, like to be. It beats you over the head. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, and
we're gonna feel nice and sad by next week for everybody.
But it touches on a lot of the themes that we've been covering recently, in the second season in particular, dealing with religion and the miraculous in a secular age. Like, really,
it's good timing for it.
And Carrie Coon is in it, and Justin Theroux, the two of the hottest people who ever lived.
Do something about the two of them every week. Yeah,
it's just incredible. So that will be fun. I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, if you like the show, you can follow us on the podcatcher of your choice. If you really like the show, you can leave us a rating and or review on that podcatcher. You can also follow us on Instagram at the End of the World WMS, where we post exciting reels from the show. Also, you can follow, if you want to revisit our Afterlife series, you can now find it on its own dedicated RSS feed. Just search A Brief History of the Afterlife on the podcatcher of your choice, and that will come up. You can also find it in the End of the World feed as usual. So, Leftovers Season 2 next week. And until then, this has been the End of the World with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu, and we will talk to you real soon.